Okay, let me make just a few observations here, and then I'll kick it over to Senator Tuberville, and we can go down the line here. But number one, I'm here for the simple reason to show support for a friend. I think this trial is absolutely ridiculous. I think it's a sham prosecution, and I think that luckily the president's supporters should know that he's actually in great spirits despite the circumstances of this. He should be out on the campaign trail, but of course he's here with this trial. Let me say something about what I've witnessed so far in my couple hours in there. First of all, Michael Cohen is the prosecution's star witness. This guy is a convicted felon who admitted in his testimony that he secretly recorded his former employer, that he only did it once allegedly, and that this was supposed to help Donald Trump. Does any reasonable, sensible person believe anything that Michael Cohen says? I don't think that they should, and I actually think that his testimony is going to hurt with any reasonable juror, and hopefully we have a few of those. I want to say two other things here very quickly. Number one, the thing that the president is prevented from saying, which is a disgrace, is that every single person involved in this prosecution is practically a Democratic political operative. The judge inside, his daughter, is making millions of dollars running against Donald Trump, raising money for Donald Trump's political opponents. The number 3 person in the Department of Justice, Biden's Department of Justice, left to become a local prosecutor to go after Donald Trump. And of course, there's Alvin Bragg, a Soros-funded prosecutor who promised to go after Donald Trump and now is doing exactly that. Now look, whether you love Donald Trump, whether you like Donald Trump, or whether you're a Democrat or don't care about politics, what's going on inside that courtroom is a threat to American democracy, ladies and gentlemen. We cannot have a country where you get to prosecute your political opponents instead of persuading voters. Joe Biden's entire strategy is to try to distract from inflation at home and war overseas with this sham trial. I just want to live in a reasonable country where we try to persuade voters in our politics. We don't try to throw our political opponents in jail. So this is a disgrace, and I wanted to be here to show some support for my friend. And speaking of my friend, here's Senator Tuberville.
Thank you. Thank you, Senator Vance. Yeah, Auburn's fan here. I want to reiterate the same thing. First of all, I'm disappointed in the courtroom. I'm hearing Mr. Trump, he is former President Trump. Give him some respect. I mean, that's what that place is in there. It's no respect. Here's what I'm seeing too. It is depressing. That courtroom is depressing. This is New York City, the icon of our country. And we got a courtroom that's the most depressing thing I've ever been in. Mental anguish is trying to be pushed on the Republican candidate for the President of the United States this year. That's all this is. He's been here a month. I am disappointed in looking at the supposedly American citizens in that courtroom, that the DA comes in and he acts like it is his Super Bowl. And I guess it is, to be noticed. But that's what's happening in this country. The Republican candidate for President of the United States is going through mental anguish in a courtroom that's very depressing. Very depressing. I'm glad to stand by President Trump. I'm a friend of his. I'm here more as a friend than backing him as candidate as president. I'm sitting there listening to a guy on the stand that they had to get out of house arrest because he lied in another court to testify in this court. He's a convicted felon. I mean, this guy, he's up there giving an acting scene, and all of a sudden he comes out and says, "Oh, I have recorded President Trump on my telephone." This guy worked for President Trump. I mean, how can you be convinced by somebody that is a serial liar? I mean, there should be no reason that anybody should listen to this guy. But at the end of the day, the Democrats are trying to beat President Trump in the jury box because they can't beat him at the ballot box. That's end of story. So I'm from the South. I'm here today to represent and to pay my respects to what President Trump is going through. It's a tough time for him, but you saw what happened this weekend. He's got more support than ever because what they're putting him through in that courtroom. Thank you.
Why do you think it's appropriate to talk about the judge's daughter when the judge is
What's up?
not to talk about it? Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis. I represent Staten Island and Brooklyn here in New York City. I'm also here to support President Trump. The case is called the people of the state of New York versus Donald J. Trump. But the people of the state of New York know that this is a sham trial. The people of America know that it is a sham trial and it is based on a star witness that is a convicted, disbarred perjurer who lied to Congress multiple times, has admitted to lying before Congress, and has been convicted of lying. What I'll say is the people of the state of New York would wish that Alvin Bragg, the district attorney who brought this case, would focus on the actual crime that is taking place and plaguing our city. All right, we have drug smugglers that are poisoning our children. We have illegal immigrant gang members wreaking havoc in our city. We see career criminals being released over and over again. And we see a district attorney that reduces or drops charges against the criminals who are plaguing New York. And yet here you have a made up charge for something that's not even within his jurisdiction. That the FEC has said that there is no crime, that the DOJ has said there is no crime. And so it's truly outrageous that this is how District Attorney Alvin Bragg is choosing to use New Yorkers' tax dollars, wasting precious courtroom time on this sham trial.
I'm Iowa Attorney General Brenna Bird, and I came all the way from Iowa to show our strong support that we have for President Trump. He won our caucuses, the first in the nation caucuses, by more than any other candidate ever has. And he will do a great job. We need him back as our president, leading our country again. My background is as a prosecutor, and what I saw in that courtroom today is a travesty. Politics has no place in a court of law. Politics should be out on the campaign trail. But instead, because of these charges that are a scam and a sham, our President Trump, is tied up in court when he should be out on the campaign trail. And I worry for the future of our country if this is the direction that campaigns are going to take, when Biden knows that he cannot defeat President Trump. So instead, they try to charge him with all of these ridiculous things that include a star witness who's a perjurer, disbarred, convicted of lying. It tells us the state we are in this country right now when that's what's happening. What we need to do is get politics out of the courtroom and let President Trump get back on the campaign trail. Let the American people decide who the next leader of the free world will be. And politics has absolutely no place in this courtroom or any other. Thank you.
I'm Steve Marshall, the Attorney General for Alabama. 30 years I have been a prosecutor and cared desperately about what goes on in our criminal justice system, and I have never seen in my career a greater perversion of the criminal justice system than I witnessed this morning. We had more questions about Michael Cohen's feelings than we did connecting him to any criminal offense. When I was a district attorney, I had the privilege of being able to work with Cy Vance. I know that his team reviewed these facts and rejected any effort to use the resources of this city to pursue a sham prosecution. We've seen federal authorities who are directed to investigate matters relating to our elections that have chosen not to pursue criminal charges relating to these same facts. A Department of Justice who has been weaponized by this administration, who also have refused to pursue charges, but yet we want a perjurer to get on that stand today to try to somehow convince that jury that Donald Trump has committed a criminal offense. There is no basis for this crime. This is simply an effort to keep Donald Trump in New York City so he can't go out and speak to the people of this country about why he should be reelected as president. I've seen nothing here that has demonstrated what I didn't know when I walked in, and that is this is not an effective use of the resources of this city. I sat in that courtroom wondering what victims are waiting to be able to get justice for their families, to take violent offenders off these streets. They can't do it because the resources are being spent on something that's not worthwhile. We're privileged to be here, grateful to be here with my senior senator to show support for a man that needs to be back on the campaign trail speaking to the people of this country.
So just one final thought, ladies and gentlemen, to all the American voters and American people who are watching this, the one opportunity you get to speak up against this sham prosecution and to say the American people elect their president, not corrupt DNC prosecutors, is to vote for Donald Trump in November. Thank you all. God bless you.
Congresswoman, New York 1. Can we just get a couple of quick comments since we came late?
Get up to the podium, please. Just go to the podium.
All right.
Mr. Trump, are you directing surrogates to speak on your behalf?
Mr. Trump, will you testify?
I do have a lot of surrogates, and they are speaking very beautifully, and they come all from all over Washington, and they're highly respected, and they think this is the greatest scam they've ever seen. And some are Democrats. They're very embarrassed by what's going on. I just want to start by saying that on the electric vehicles that Biden is pushing down everybody's throat, even though people don't want them, he wants to put a big tariff on China, which is a suggestion that I said, where have you been for 3.5 years? They should have done it a long time ago. But they've also got to do it on other vehicles, and they have to do it on a lot of other products, because China's eating our lunch right now. And they went away from what I was doing. They're eating our lunch, so they have to do it on much more than electric vehicles. And they have to get going fast, but it should have been done 3.5 years ago. I did it, I started. And then they started playing games, and it was very bad for the auto industry. In Michigan, the auto industry is doing very poorly because jobs are starting to leave. We're losing. You know, with the electric vehicle mandate, they're going to be made in China. They're all going to be made in China and also in Mexico, owned by China. Poll just came out, the very respected Redfield Wilton, and it has us up 6 in Michigan, 7 in North Carolina, Pennsylvania +2, Georgia +5, Florida +9, Arizona +2, and up in every other place 2. So that just came out. That's on top of yesterday's New York Times poll. I think today I might just quote somebody that frankly has been extremely respectful to me over the last period of a few months. He's watching this scam taking place. Michael Avenatti. Have you heard the name? He said, the next time you're accused of something by someone, a co-worker, neighbor, friend, significant other, stranger, ask yourself if it would be okay if only they were allowed to speak, accuse, antagonize, while you were not allowed to respond. He's talking about the gag order, or defend yourself in any way. If your answer is no, then you too should be angered by Trump not being allowed to respond to the various people that are making comments. Now think of it. You ask me questions, I'm not allowed to respond. They're the easiest questions I could possibly be asked. Only a guy like Biden couldn't answer those questions, because he's not there. You ready? So here's a couple of quotes. Mark Levin, great man, great legal talent. This is not a trial of Donald Trump. It's a case of the Democrat Party versus America. It also represents the greatest effort to interfere with and steal a federal election in American political history. Biden is seeking to clear the field. He wants to clear the field because he can't do it himself. So he's weaponized the Department of Justice. And as you know, they have their people in that room. Their DOJ is in that room because they want to try and hurt me. Now, the good news is my poll numbers have gone up significantly. This is not what they had in mind. Newt Gingrich, this is without precedent in American history. It has never occurred to President John Adams or anybody else that you could jail your primary competitor, your primary opponent. In his case, Vice President Thomas Jefferson. This goes back a long way. This has never happened in our country before. There's never been anything like this. Andy McCarthy just came out. New Yorkers should be outraged at the mockery Bragg is making of the state's legal system as the entire country looks on. The entire world is looking on. This is a very bad thing that's happening in New York. Businesses are leaving New York because of what happened here and what happened with another crooked judge, Engoron. Totally crooked. And he's under investigation right now, as he should be. He's under a big investigation, I hear, right now. Jonathan Turley. Experts are shrugging. not sure what the crime is being alleged. Prosecutors have not explained why denoting this as a legal expense was wrong. So they say that the bookkeeping error, I paid a lawyer a certain amount of money. We marked it down as legal expense. So I had a legal expense, and I marked it down as a legal expense. I didn't mark it down as construction of a wall, construction of a building. I didn't mark it down as electricity cost. I took a legal expense, and they called it, I didn't do it, a bookkeeper did it. You did it exactly right. Took a legal expense and called it a legal expense. This is their whole case. Are you allowed to call a legal expense a legal expense? I don't know what else you'd call it, actually. But he brings it up here, the legal expense. It was, what's the problem? I never thought that as an attorney I could see a system like New York's, one of the most sophisticated legal bars in the world, really debase itself so badly. This judge should not be allowed in the case, and he should not allow this case to go forward. Mershon should rule in favor of a directed verdict immediately. There is an insufficient amount of evidence. No crime has been shown. No crime's been committed. There's been no crime. Judge Janine Pirro, she talks here. She's very excited here. He's a fool. He's not an experienced judge. So I'll make that one a little short. I don't want to insult anybody. Greg Jarrett, brilliant guy. Greg's argument is legally flawed. The Federal Election Commission, FEC, determined there was no campaign finance violation. The Department of Justice agreed. No civil fine was levied or criminal charge rendered. Those two entities have exclusive authority over federal elections. The state has absolutely no authority, and the city, Bragg, has no authority. And Bragg never wanted to bring this case, in all fairness to him. He never wanted to bring this case. Not a local prosecutor such as Alvin Bragg should be involved in this case. And by the way, the judge, as you know, is totally conflicted, and everybody's talking about it. It's an embarrassment to New York legal analyst Michael Moore of CNN doesn't think the prosecution has proven its case. Senator John Kennedy, respected gentleman, I will tell you that trial says more about politics than it does about an alleged crime. If you want to hide something from Bragg, you put it in the law book. Bringing in a fellow criminal trial, it hasn't proved to be a felony. There was no crime. Everybody's saying there's no crime. There was absolutely. But I've been here for almost 4 weeks in an icebox. I call it the icebox, listening to a judge who's totally corrupt and conflicted. Will Shaw, highly respected lawyer. Hush money, it's not a crime. Signing an NDA is not a crime. By the way, Congress, everybody in Congress have NDAs. NDAs are very common. Non-disclosure agreements. They're not a crime. Claimant, CBS Morning News, there's no evidence that this case is about campaign election violations. There's no evidence. But again, we go back to the federal law. The FEC, Federal Election Commission, said there's not a problem. There's no case. And Vivek, who's here right now, so he can speak for himself, he said this is a sham trial. It's politically motivated. It's an assault on the leading candidate for U.S. president. I would expect he would say something good, actually, so I won't go through the rest, but he's here. He's going to talk to you. The Speaker of the House is here. We have Byron Donalds. Corey is here. We have a lot of great people here to talk to you. And they won't let them speak here. I guess they want to make it difficult for them to speak. So for some reason, I can speak here, but I'm the only one that's allowed. The gag order has to come off. So when you ask me a question about the people that we're talking about, I'm not allowed to answer. There's never been anything like this in the history of our country. It's a scam. It's election interference at a level that's never taken place before. And now, if you don't mind, I'm going to go into the icebox and sit for a long time. Thank you very much.
Mr. Trump, will you testify? Mr. Trump, what can we expect from us?
Mr. Trump, how is the judge making money off this case?
Good morning, everyone. I called President Trump and told him I wanted to be here myself to call out what is a travesty of justice, and I think everybody around the country can see that. President Trump is a friend, and I wanted to be here to support him. I'm here speaking with you outside because the court won't allow us to speak inside the building. That's just one of the many things that are wrong here. This is the fifth week that President Trump has been in court for this sham of a trial. They are doing this intentionally to keep him here and keep him off of the campaign trail. And I think everybody in the country can see that for what it is. I'm an attorney. I'm a former litigator myself. I am disgusted by what is happening here, what is being done here to our entire system of justice overall. The people are losing faith right now in this country, in our institutions. They're losing faith in our system of justice. And the reason for that is because they see it being abused as it is being done here in New York. The facts here are very important. Facts are always important in a trial, or at least they're supposed to be. The president's actions in this matter were previously reviewed and no charges were filed. Why is that? Because there's no crime here. Now, 8 years later, suddenly they've resurrected this thing. They brought it back. And why is that? Well, just apply common sense. Everyone can see. It's painfully obvious that we're now 6 months out from an election day. And that's the reason. That is the reason why they brought these charges here and across the country. What we've got here is a partisan Democrat district attorney. We have a Biden donor judge. And we have an assistant DA who was recently a top official at the Department of Justice, Biden's DOJ, and recently received over $10,000 in payments from the Democratic National Committee. The star witness here is Michael Cohen. I just listened to a few moments of his testimony this morning, and it is consistent with what he's already done. This is a man who is clearly on a mission for personal revenge and who is widely known as a witness who has trouble with the truth. He is someone who has a history of perjury and is well known for it. No one should believe a word he says today. He lied to Congress. He lied to the IRS. He lied to federal election officials. Even Cohen's own lawyer testified to a grand jury that he is not reliable. So there's nothing that he presents here that should be given any weight at all by a jury, and certainly not this judge. The crime that they are accusing President Trump of is falsification of business records. But I think everybody knows he is not the bookkeeper for his company. President Trump is innocent of these charges. And again, anyone with common sense can understand what is happening here. In the midst of all this nonsense and corruption, they have placed a ridiculous and unprecedented gag order on President Trump. They were overriding his constitutional right to defend himself from political smears from his harshest critics at the most important time. He is soon to be officially the nominee of one of the major parties in our country, running for president. And they have him tied up here in this ridiculous prosecution that is not about justice. It's all about politics, and everybody can see that. President Trump is leading in swing state polling. The American people see right through these politically motivated attacks. I've been in 102 cities in over half the states in the last few months. And I can tell you that no matter where we are around the country, I've been doing large events. People from all walks of life come to these events. And they are concerned about this. They are disgusted about this. They are fed up. They've had enough because they see what's happening. It's impossible for anybody to deny that looks at this objectively that the judicial system in our country has been weaponized against President Trump. The system is using all the tools at its disposal right now to punish one president and provide cover for another. And meanwhile, among the atrocities here, the judge's own daughter is making millions of dollars doing online fundraising for Democrats. They're using this trial as a hook. It's so corrupt. It's so corrupt, and everybody knows it. If Alvin Bragg thinks the American people will believe these absurd charges, take a look at the turnout at Trump events. Compare those to Biden events, by the way, but he had over 100,000 people in New Jersey. By some estimates, far more than that, because the lineup of people getting into the event was thousands deep as well. That shows you where they are. They know this trial is a sham. They know that President Trump is being mistreated by the judicial system. And it's not just this case, of course. This is a year-long partisan witch hunt, years long. And it's been going on for quite some time. We're seeing the same thing in the classified documents case. That one is so egregious, the trial's been indefinitely postponed. I'm working with Chairman Jordan of the House Judiciary Committee, Chairman Comer of our Oversight Committee, on measures to rein in the abuses of Special Counsel Jack Smith. The latest revelation is that they've manipulated documents. They might have tampered with the evidence in the case, it seems, and that doesn't surprise any of us. In Congress, we have oversight responsibility, and it is our objective and our responsibility to hold them accountable. These are politically motivated trials, and they are a disgrace. It is election interference, and they show how desperate the opposition that President Trump has, and how desperate they truly are. The American people are not going to let this stand. Election day cannot get here soon enough, and we will continue to shine a light on all of this in Congress because we have that constitutional responsibility. Again, I came here again today on my own to support President Trump because I am one of hundreds of millions of people and one citizen who is deeply concerned about this. And so I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Morning, everyone. I'm Governor Doug Burgum, along with our Congressman and Vivek. We're here today to offer some observations of firsthand. I think one thing that we've all known is this was a sham trial, but when you have an opportunity to see it up close and personal, you can see it's actually a scam trial. When you've got a judge that's a donor to Biden, you got prosecutors that are supporters of Biden, and then you've got relatives of the judge that are benefiting financially directly from this trial and that information. And then you've got the star witness is a serial perjurer. Then you have to ask yourself, what is this all about? And I think the only conclusion, of course, is it's election interference and it's tying up the president from being out on the campaign trail. And of course, we know that from the polls that have come out, even from the New York Times, Rasmussen Interactive this week, President Trump is leading all over the country. And the conclusion you can draw from that is the American people have already acquitted Donald Trump because the things that they're concerned about, inflation, crime, the border, the economy, all of these things, President Trump is leading by huge double digits versus Joe Biden. And the sooner that this scam trial can be concluded, the sooner that the president can get back to getting out campaigning and talking to the American people about the issues that matter to them. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the Congressman, then Vivek. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of America, this trial is a joke. This thing is a farce. We were in there all morning. Michael Cohen basically sat there and said, yeah, he invoiced legal expenses. The Trump campaign, the Trump organization, not the campaign, paid out money in legal expenses. Where's the crime? There is no crime. The only crime that's happening here is this Democrat judge and the Democrat Party prosecuting their political rival right in the middle of a presidential election. The crime here is that the issues facing our nation are not being addressed by the Democrats, but they want to go after Donald Trump. And there's nothing wrong. There's nothing that has been wrong here. Nothing that has been done poorly by President Trump. The only thing that's being done wrong is by this judge. His daughter's making money, raising money for Democrats, and all of the fundraising emails and all the fundraising things are about this trial that his daughter is using. He won't recuse himself. This is a travesty of justice. This is a misuse of the justice system. And look around New York. New York's got plenty of issues. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. You have all of NYPD's finest down here because of this travesty going on in that courtroom. Meanwhile, the citizens of New York are less safe, and the district attorney in New York is not prosecuting real crime. He's a Soros-backed DA going after his chief political rival in Donald Trump. America is better than this. And so unfortunately, it's going to take the American people this November to let their voices be heard on this travesty of justice that's occurring and making sure that Donald Trump is the 47th president of the United States. I've never seen anything like it. This is a joke. It is a farce. It is a travesty. We are better than this as Americans. And unfortunately, the Democrat Party has lost their ever-loving minds. And so it's going to take the American people to remind them that justice is supposed to be blind. It is not supposed to be going after political opponents and political rivals. With that, I'll turn it over to my colleague from Florida, Congressman Corey Mills.
Thank you so much. What did we learn here today? What we've learned is that Michael Cohen has listed his invoices as being an actual legal precedent where, in fact, he's now claiming that it's something other than that and that he knowingly and fraudulently put that forward. Look, as we talked about, why do they want this trial to continue? Well, they want it to continue because this is the fundraising source for Adam Schiff, for Biden, and for the Democrat opponents. This is nothing more than election interference at its finest. You are seeing where the weaponization of what was the Department of Justice, now the Department of Injustice, has continued to be utilized against the American people and against the President of the United States. I will tell you right now, the same way that I stand here steadfast behind our president, I know that America stands with him as well. They see this sham indictment. They see this for what it is without any actual substance whatsoever. Keep in mind, they keep actually talking about the FEC violations, but when you're utilizing personal funds or you're utilizing a trust, that is not campaign funding. There is no violation, which is why the FEC never actually even pursued this. And so I think the American people see this for what it is. They want to keep President Trump off the campaign trail. They're seeing what's happening in the swing states across America, and they're seeing exactly that this is draining down assets and resources that can be utilized by the president to continue to forge ahead, to build a stronger economy, to secure our border, and to get our nation back on track. This is a sham, and that is the only thing this is. Michael Cohen has no credibility, no integrity, and this is weaponization against our president.
Thank you. I want to thank my colleagues, Governor Burgum, Congressman Mills, and Congressman Donalds for laying out the political backdrop here. This is a politicized persecution that is nakedly apparent. What I want to do is dive a little bit deeper into what we actually learned today in that courtroom. What do we see in there? First of all, I learned a lot from being in there in person. It is one of the most depressing places I have been in my life, but it is fitting because the only thing more depressing than the environment of that courtroom is what's actually happening in there. It's straight out of a Kafka novel. The prosecution's main strategy appears to be to bore the jurors into submission. And if you look in that direction, sadly, it may appear to actually be working. Now, I would like for anybody here in the press, anybody at home, anybody in MSNBC or the media afterwards, to clearly state what exactly is the crime that Donald Trump committed. Oh, wait. We have not heard a good answer to that question. It has been vague until today. You heard Michael Cohen's testimony, after which I would say it is less clear than ever what that crime actually was. They'll say falsifying business records. Well, let's look at who did we learn falsified business records today? Get, what, hour, 2 hours, felt like it could have been 7 hours, of Michael Cohen talking about how he falsified business records. Okay, so you have a guy who has been a perjurer in the past that is now saying he falsified business records. What is the crime that Donald Trump committed? Now, it appears to be what they might allege is some sort of bookkeeping error or whatever. The real bookkeeping that we need accounting of is Judge Merchan's own family member collecting millions of dollars as a Democratic operative, using the existence of this trial as a fundraising ploy for Democrats. This is unconscionable. Imagine if the same shoe fit the other foot. Imagine if it was Joe Biden that was on trial. You had a Republican judge whose son was collecting millions of dollars as a Republican operative. What would you all be saying? This would not be justice. This is injustice at its worst. So let's go even a layer deeper, right? Because let's go even a layer deeper, actually. The alleged crime here is supposedly, they try to point to this every day, that he does not actually use campaign funds, that he used personal funds. Well, let's get this straight. Suppose Donald Trump had used campaign funds to make a personal expense, they'd be going after him for that. So if they're going to get him going or they're going to get him coming, that is the best proof that this is a politicized sham. Let's go through it piece by piece. If you tell somebody to go buy you a suit and you want to look good on television because that'll affect the voters, the way voters vote for you, you know what? They prosecute politicians if they use campaign funds to buy a suit. campaign funds to get a haircut because you want to look good to the voters, they will actually prosecute you for using campaign funds for a personal expense. Yet the entire legal theory of this case, the whole case that Alvin Bragg has brought, depends on one premise for them to charge this as a felony, is that Donald Trump somehow should have used campaign funds to make an allegedly personal payment. Yet if he had done that, their case against him would be even stronger. This is garbage. That is the best proof that you have that if they're going to get him Cohen or get him coming, it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. This is a sham. This is not the United States of America. This is some third-rate banana republic. If this were happening in another country, we would be laughing at them as a sham democracy. I am ashamed as an American citizen to sit here in a courtroom watching the former leader of the free world, and let's be honest, likely next leader of the free world, sitting with the indignity in this dingy third-rate courtroom with fourth-rate prosecutors and a fifth-rate lawyer on the stand as a witness who actually is violating attorney-client privilege left and right. Nobody's even talking about that. So this is a shame. Shame on the spirit in our country's history, but we will get through it and be stronger because you know who ultimately actually cast the vote on this case? It's not just the jurors in that jury box. It's every one of you at home. It's every American who votes this November to say no to the weaponization of justice. And if you're at home, you may say, you know what, I don't agree with everything Donald Trump's ever said. You know what, I may not agree with some of his policies even though they were great policies for 4 years. But you do agree, whether you are Democrat or Republican or black or white or gay or straight or man or woman, that our justice system should be blind to politics. That regardless of whether your last name is Biden or Trump, regardless of whether you've been a politician or not, you get a fair shake in our own legal system. And when you have a prosecutor who campaigned on the pledge of going after Trump and then keeps his campaign pledge, when you have a judge whose kids are collecting money from Democratic operatives by fundraising off the very trial that that judge is presiding over, and then telling the U.S. president that he's subject to a gag order, that he can't talk about it, that is not justice. That is a bastardization of what this country was founded on. And I'm here, and all of us are here as friends of Donald Trump, supporting him in our personal capacity, sharing our opinions. That's why we're here today. But I hope every American at home who isn't able to be in that courtroom is able to see what's actually happening there. And when you do, we will have a landslide of historic proportion this November if every American understands the injustice that's playing out in that courtroom today. So may God bless our country. I pray for our future, and let's pray for our country being stronger on the other side of this disgusting sham prosecution. Doug, close us out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Vivek. Thank you, Congressman. In closing, I just want to double down on that. We're all here today because of the circus of this trial. But I want to say a word to those Americans out there that are dealing with Biden's inflation when their paychecks aren't helping them get through the end of the month because they're paying more for their gas and their food, they're paying more for their electricity. I want them to know that while this trial is going on, there's many of us around the country that are out helping campaign for President Trump to make sure that the message gets through, and that's why it's showing up in the polls, because President Trump is stronger on the border. He is stronger on crime. He is stronger on China. He is stronger on the economy. He's stronger on everything that matters to our citizens today in this country, where Biden is weak. This fall, it's going to be about strength versus weakness. The politicization of the legal system is not working. It's actually failing. And I, again, want to say, everything that these gentlemen said here today about the trial is absolutely true. But it is sad that we're here today and not out talking to the American people about the issues that matter to them the most. And with that, thank you all for being here.
Yes. Here's the answer.
Thank you so much. What did we learn here today? What we've learned is that Michael Cohen has listed his invoices as being an actual legal precedent where, in fact, he's now claiming that it's something other than that and that he knowingly and fraudulently put that forward. Look, as we talked about, why do they want this trial to continue? Well, they want it to continue because this is the fundraising source for Adam Schiff, for Biden, and for the Democrat opponents. This is nothing more than election interference at its finest. You are seeing where the weaponization of what was the Department of Justice, now the Department of Injustice, has continued to be utilized against the American people and against the President of the United States. I will tell you right now, the same way that I stand here steadfast behind our president, I know that America stands with him as well. They see this sham indictment. They see this for what it is without any actual substance whatsoever. Keep in mind, They keep actually talking about the FEC violations, but when you're utilizing personal funds or you're utilizing a trust, that is not campaign funding. There is no violation, which is why the FEC never actually even pursued this. And so I think the American people see this for what it is. They want to keep President Trump off the campaign trail. They're seeing what's happening in the swing states across America, and they're seeing exactly that this is draining down assets and resources that can be utilized by the president to continue to forge ahead, to build a stronger economy, to secure our border, and to get our nation back on track. This is a sham, and that is the only thing this is. Michael Cohen has no credibility, no integrity, and this is weaponization against our president.
We'll take a few questions. Front row.
So, the DOJ has been stonewalling y'all on some of y'all's investigations. Y'all have the her Garland markup, contempt markup thing for the her and refusing to do that. The DOJ is also stonewalling the House Ethics Committee and not giving over any records regarding Matt Gaetz and their investigation. Do you think that the DOJ should be giving over those records that House Ethics is requesting?
I haven't paid any attention to that at all. I can tell you that the Department of Justice has clearly been politicized. Some of us consider this actually to be a weaponized DOJ, and Merrick Garland is in charge. He is the Attorney General at the top, and I think that they have used our system of justice against political opponents, of course the most prominent of which is Donald J. Trump. I was with him yesterday in Manhattan, and many in the press have asked, why did you go there? Because I'm a former litigator. I'm an attorney. This is an egregious violation, a travesty of justice. They are using the judicial system for political purposes, and this is something the framers warned us against. In a constitutional republic, look, everybody, remember, I remind us all the time here, we're still an experiment on the world stage. There has never been a system of government like ours. We started something new in 1776, a constitutional republic. We removed the monarch, and we said it's going to be a government of, by, and for the people. You know what's critical to maintain, to keep a republic, is that you have to have the people, we're self-governing, the people have to believe that we have equal justice under law. There's a reason that Lady Justice is depicted with a blindfold. There cannot be two tiers of justice. There can't be two systems. You can't exact political revenge on one political figure using the justice system and then give a pass to the other. That's what the American people see. And it doesn't matter how they try to spin it or make it into something that it is not. We see what is happening. The soon-to-be official nominee of the Republican Party is tied up in court in Manhattan and cannot be on the campaign trail throughout the week. This is the 5th week that he's been tied up on what is not even easily defined as a crime that he had nothing to do with. The DOJ officials, prosecutors looked at all these charges 8 years ago. They did not bring charges because there was nothing there. Now they've done it suddenly. Why? Because Donald Trump is running for president again. And this is repeated across the system. Jack Smith, the special counsel. You know, just last week it was revealed that they had tampered with evidence. They had moved around the evidence in the boxes, and that trial now is apparently being postponed indefinitely. Why? Because they have real problems on the prosecution side now. Look, it's a simple question, and it's a simple answer. We have great concern about this Department of Justice and these state prosecutors, local prosecutors around the country who are using our judicial system and our court system for political revenge. We got to bring an end to this. We have to, because the people have to believe in our system, and we're eroding their faith in our system through all this, and that's what's so concerning about it.
Can you go inside the court, Congressman?
Thank you.
Well, I'm honored to be here with my colleagues from the House Freedom Caucus, where we watched Michael Cohen get dog-walked through the series of lies he has told. There is literally no branch of government that Michael Cohen has not lied to. He lied to investigators. He lied to the judge who sentenced him. He lied to the United States Congress, and he committed these lies for his own benefit. And while we're talking about what we saw in that courtroom going on for people's own benefit, we would be remiss if we did not mention this corrupt judge, this judge whose own family is making 6 figures off of Democrat politics that continues to gaslight the country that there's some sort of crime committed by President Trump. This is a made-up crime.
No other American in the country would be charged with this type of crime. It's like the Mr. Potato Head doll of crimes, where they had to stick together a bunch of things that did not belong together. Observing the jury, I could see that there was a great appreciation for the liar that Michael Cohen was, and we are not getting a fair shake in front of this judge. The prosecutors don't even have to state the basis for their objections. He's agreeing with the prosecutors without even hearing argument on these objections, and there should be evidence getting in about the depth and breadth of Michael Cohen's lies that we're not seeing entered into it. And so we're here voluntarily supporting our friend President Trump, the leader of our movement, the leader of our party, and soon again the leader of this great country. And I want to hand it over to the leader of the House Freedom Caucus, my friend Bob Good.
Thank you, Congressman Gates. Thank you for your leadership on this. We're seeing today what lengths the Democrat Party will go to try to rig or steal another election. They tried to do it in 2020. They're doing it again here in 24 by trying to keep the nominee off the ballot, by trying to keep the nominee from campaigning, by trying to ruin the nominee financially. And we're seeing that today. We saw the perjurer-in-chief, Michael Cohen, multiple times admit and acknowledge that he has lied under oath, he's perjured himself, and yet we're supposed to believe his testimony as the star witness against President Trump. This is lawfare, again, to try to steal or to rig an election. You got a corrupt prosecutor, you got a corrupt star witness, you got a corrupt judge whose daughter is one of the leading fundraisers for the Democrat Party, having raised some $100 million. That's the judge's daughter. This is a crooked sham trial to try to hurt the nominee who's going to be the president of the United States, whether or not they like it or whether or not they want that to happen. President Trump is going to be reelected. I'll turn it back to Matt Gaetz to manage this time.
I'd now like to hand it off to the one of the past leaders of the House Freedom Caucus, my colleague on the House Judiciary Committee, Andy Biggs.
Thank you. Thank you. If you want to know how you can try to impact an election, you can bring a candidate, the candidate for the Republicans, and try to tie him up in court over and over again. And if you really want to make it a sham, you bring a couple of people in who have no credibility, and you put them up as your star witnesses. And we saw it today firsthand. Mr. Cohen admitted repeatedly that he lied. He admitted repeatedly that he did so for his own personal interest. That tells you everything you know about the lack of credibility of this case. And then you add to that you have a judge. You have a judge whose daughter is making literally $100,000 at least because she's going around using this trial to raise money for Democrats. That is what's happening. That is what is happening. And so I think that it's pretty clear to us that this is a sham trial. It's being done for political purposes, and that just should not stand in the United States of America. Now I'm going to give it back to my friend, Mr. Gaetz.
Now my colleague from the House Oversight Committee and from the state of Florida, Ms. Luna.
Thank you. I also want to point out that they are telling people that they can't have cameras in the courtroom, but if they had nothing to hide, and if they're truly being honest about this, why is it that you guys can't be in the courtroom and see exactly what we're seeing? Just because we're members of Congress does not mean we have authority more than you guys to know exactly what's happening in that courtroom. So just an update. The president is doing well. He's in good spirits. We are here today because we know that this is nonsense and should not be happening in the United States of America. Furthermore, to Cohen, who admitted to lying to members of Congress, that's contempt of Congress, just so that you are tracking. And I want to follow it up by saying this. It is by no coincidence that you have Goldman, a member of House Oversight who's a Democrat, prepared Cohen for his testimony, is also retained by the judge's daughter as a client. Does that seem like it's not sham to you? It is corrupt lawfare. It's the Biden prosecutions, and Biden, you're going to lose this election cycle.
Joined by my other colleague from Florida, Mr. Waltz.
I've served all over the world, in Africa, the Middle East, and in South America. And this is the type of country, those are the types of countries where they weaponize the judicial system against their political opponents. Maduro weaponized the judicial system in Venezuela against Guaido. Every prime minister of Pakistan knows if they lose to the other side, they're going to get put in jail. Is this what we want America to become? This is what we're becoming. And then from the great state of Florida, let's talk about the judges. The judges in Florida, in an effort to stay apolitical, won't even attend an event. They won't even take a photo with a member of Congress so that the public believes they are objective. But yet we have a judge that's contributing. We have a judge whose daughter is making money. We have a judge whose family is enriching themselves on what's happening today. Any judge worth their salt would have recused themselves because they care about the people's perception of justice. This isn't justice. This is politics. It's political warfare, and we see it happening in third world countries all over the world. I never thought I'd see it happening in the United States of America.
Now, my colleague from the state of South Carolina, Ralph Norman.
You know, pure and simple, this is, as the sign says, political persecution. No man should have to go through what President Trump is sitting through. A judge is his own daughter who's making millions. Should not happen in America. The fact that this trial, look at the timing of it. Before the presidential primary, before the conventions, having Donald Trump sit here, their whole purpose is to keep him off the campaign trail so that he can't do what he does best. You know what their intent is? This is their intent, to put him behind bars. And the American people are going to say no. They're not going to put an innocent man behind bars. I don't what kind of political theater they want to keep going. This is a kangaroo court, pure and simple.
Amen. My colleague, Lauren Boebert from Colorado.
The radical left wants President Trump to simply go away. And if President Trump just went away, this would all go away as well. They do not want him to be in this race. They know that he is the #1 candidate for president of the United States for the 2024 election, and they are doing everything that they can to interfere in yet another election. Well, I got news for the radical left and the weaponized DOJ. President Trump is not going anywhere. He's coming back for another 4 years, and we are not going anywhere either. We are here to stand with him as he stands up for you, the American people. He has laid everything on the line to defend our great nation, and I'm so grateful for him. Sitting in that court today, seeing the lack of credibility from Michael Cohen, who has lied in front of all branches of Congress, of government. This is an issue. Someone who is an admitted liar, who has committed tax fraud, someone who has a podcast, who screams explicitives against President Trump, saying that it would be better for him, that he can't wait for President Trump to be locked up behind bars. Someone who wears a shirt with President Trump behind bars. He said today in court even that it would personally affect him, the outcome of this case. The outcome of this case personally affects Cohen. Everything that he has done personally affects him, and he wants President Trump to suffer. That is why he has done what he has done. That's why he has told the lies that he has, and we are here today to counter those as we stand for our friend, President Donald J. Trump. And I appreciate the millions of Americans who stand in defense of him while we have corrupt judges who he's not even allowed to speak of because of their corruptness. A corrupt judge whose daughter is making some $100 million, raising $100 million for campaigns against President Trump. This is a scam, it is a sham, it is a show, and we are here to expose every bit of it. Mr. President, we stand with you.
My colleague from the great state of Tennessee, Andy Ogles. You know, if I started a story with a convicted felon and a hooker walk into a bar, you would immediately know that it's a joke. Well, that's what we have here, a joke of a trial. We have a convicted felon who has a vengeance against the president. We have a woman who is paid for sex with a vengeance against the president. This is not a prosecution this is a persecution. We have a two-tier justice system in this country, and if a former president can be targeted by a woke and corrupt judge, then you can be targeted as well. Mr. President, we've got your back. Thank you. Also, from the state of Tennessee, my colleague, Congresswoman Harshbarger.
Thank you, Matt. You know, we're in New York City, and we're watching the persecution of a patriot. You know, we're watching in real time the Biden administration's Department of Justice interfere in a case that should never have been brought in the first place. We have a judge who has a conflict of interest. We have a witness in Michael Cohen who admittedly from the stand admitted to lying under oath. Under oath. Look, if you ever wondered if there were two tiers of justice and if the American government was weaponized against its own citizens, you don't have to wonder anymore. You don't have to wonder. The American people are not stupid. There are patriots in this nation who want to know the truth, and we are here to support President Trump to do just that. And the last thing I will say is what a price to be a patriot President Trump is paying. And with that, I'll yield back to you.
Thank you. Mr. Cloud from the state of Texas.
Hey, why are we here is a good question to ask. We are here simply because Biden can't get the inflation numbers down. He can't get the crime numbers down. He can't get the numbers of illegal aliens, terrorists even crossing our borders down. So what's he going to do? He's going to do everything he can to take down his political opponent. How's he going to do that? Well, we all know that the Biden team knows that they're not going to be able to win this election by doing the Biden basement tour again. And so we saw just a couple days ago, Trump in New Jersey, 100,000 people showing up. This is the contrast that they do not want you to see, and why we have a court with a corrupt judge and a convicted felon as the star witness placing a gag order on President Trump so that he can't be out here touching and winning the hearts of the minds of the American people, which he definitely has behind him. The American people definitely see through this. They're not buying it this time, and we're here to stand with President Trump and to let them know that are trying to silence him that we will not be silenced, we will not be intimidated. We are going to stand for this country to ensure that the rule of law is restored once again.
Amen. Also joining us from the state of Arizona is my colleague Eli Crane.
Thank you guys for coming out today. I was only in that courtroom for about 2 hours, and I heard Michael Cohen admit at least 6 times that he lied. I mean, that's what this is about. That tells you everything you need to know when this is the star witness, him and Stormy Daniels. The American people know what's going on. You guys know what's going on. You guys know why President Trump is here. Why is he here? Right there, political persecution. They can't beat him. They can't beat him, and everybody knows it. The polls are showing it right now. They couldn't beat him. They tried to take him out with the Russian scandals. They tried to impeach him multiple times. And the American people also know that he could have retired down to Florida and lived the American dream. But he came back. Why? Because he sees what's happening in this country. And this is just one more example of it. And one more reason why we came up here, we volunteered our time, is because we represent good Americans that are tired of this crap too. Yeah, that's right. She is too. And I know there's many other people that are tired of it. And they want us to fight for this country. They want us to make America great again. And they know that President Trump, that's right. They know that President Trump is the biggest obstacle in between them destroying this country and turning it into some totalitarian state, and that's what they want. Just like this judge up here, all right? We're not going to allow that to happen. I know President Trump isn't going to allow it to happen, and you are going to see come November, even people that hated President Trump's guts are seeing how rigged and how messed up this system is, and they know if it can happen to him, it can happen to them. Thank you guys for coming out, and I want to thank my colleagues for supporting the president.
Thank you for coming. We're here of our own volition because there are things we can say that President Trump is unjustly not allowed to say. This is a corrupt judge. These are corrupted witnesses. This is a corrupt prosecution that belies any sense of the facts or the law. And so we're going to keep speaking out against this. We're going to keep fighting against this. And we will head back to Washington as House conservatives, saying that these undemocratic efforts must be stopped. They must be defunded. We must use our Article 1 powers to stand against election interference. And to close us out, the chairman of the House Freedom Caucus, Bob Good.
I want to again thank my colleagues in the House Freedom Caucus for having the president's back. We're here because we got to defend him, because the gag order that's put on him. Have you ever seen it before where a gag order, instead of trying to protect, to make sure that the accused gets a fair trial, this gag order is to ensure that he cannot defend himself fairly. So we're here to have his back, we're here to defend him, and to tell the truth about this travesty of justice, this political persecution, this election interference, this rigging of elections, this collusion between the Department of Injustice and this crooked courts in New York City, whether it's Michael Colangelo, who went from the DOJ to New York City, whether it's Fonnie Willis, his boyfriend, who billed the taxpayers of Georgia for time up here in New York City, colluding with the Department of Justice. We are President Trump's voice. We have his back. He will ultimately be proven innocent. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
And I want all of the news to start asking the question, what is the crime? Because everyone in this court has not been informed of what the crime is. The defendant does not know the crime that was committed.
Second row, I'm sorry. I'll get to you. Okay. Second row.
Leader Jeffries, were you surprised or disappointed to see Speaker Johnson in New York outside the Trump trial courtroom?
I have not had an opportunity to talk to Speaker Johnson about the rationale for his visit. It is extraordinary that so many extreme MAGA Republicans who are apparently part of the Red Tie Brigade felt the need to bend the knee to the insurrectionists in chief, as opposed to staying in Washington and doing the business of the American people.
Mr. Leader, I wanted to ask, going back to Congressman Cuellar, you endorsed him earlier this cycle, but you said right now that's not appropriate to weigh in on the political matters. Would you still endorse him today? Are you putting that endorsement on ice? What does that mean?
I have not rescinded the endorsement.
Good to see everyone here today. My name is, I'm Alan Wilson. I'm the Attorney General for South Carolina. I'm here today because as a prosecutor, as the chief prosecutor for the state of South Carolina, I wanted this country to understand that prosecutors around the country are calling this sham trial exactly what it is, a sham trial. When I was a young prosecutor in South Carolina, I was taught that a real prosecutor doesn't prosecute people, they prosecute conduct. What we're seeing today is the prosecution of a person because of who he is, not what he's alleged to do. What's happening today is a travesty of justice. They're ignoring the rule of law. The people's chief witness, you have trouble finding a single person he has actually told the truth to. It has just come out that he has stolen money from the Trump organization. He's lied to the media, he's lied to the organization, he's lied to Congress, he's lied to the court. He's a convicted perjurer. So as a prosecutor, as someone who spent his entire career defending the rule of law, upholding victims' rights, and trying to defend the system of justice that this country is built on, I'm up here to show my support for not only President Trump, but the judicial system. The judicial system deserves better. It deserves better. I was not asked to be here. I chose to be here because prosecution matters. The truth matters. Justice matters. And it's not happening here today. I'll be followed by Kash Patel.
Thank you, General. My name is Kash Patel, former national security prosecutor, former public defender, and I'm here to tell you, after 6 weeks of unconstitutional trial, we have finally found a crime.
Michael Cohen admitted on the witness stand just this morning to 6 different felonies of stealing Donald Trump's money. After 6 weeks of trial, we finally have a crime. We also have a victim. That victim is Donald J. Trump. Michael Cohen admitted under oath to structuring transactions illegally and stealing tens of thousands of dollars from Donald Trump. What's even worse from a constitutional perspective is that the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York knew about Cohen's crimes for 6 years. The Department of Justice with Merrick Garland and Joe Biden knew about Michael Cohen's crimes. The District Attorney Alvin Bragg and his Fantasy Island knew about Michael Cohen's crimes, and he has been charged with 0 of those felonies. The core case of this unconstitutional circus is the biggest felon in the U.S. history, and Michael Cohen is their star witness. It is a total bastardization of due process. I am honored to be here in support of Donald J. Trump. He is being victimized, but we as a country are being victimized even more by the unconstitutional weaponization of justice and the two-tier system of justice that is on full display. I'm proud to be here, and I'm proud to be followed by New York's greatest police commissioner, Bernie Kerik.
Thank you. I'm Bernie Kerik. I was the correction commissioner in this city, and I was the police commissioner in this city. Michael Cohen is not only a liar, but he's just admitted to being a thief. He stole money from the Trump organization. He's admitted it on the stand. My question is, why hasn't he been prosecuted? Why hasn't he been prosecuted? He's admitted stealing money in front of the district attorney, in front of state prosecutors. Why isn't he sitting in there in handcuffs being prosecuted? I'm here to support the president. This is as you can see, a circus that should not be happening, a circus that's unconstitutional, and something that every New Yorker should despise.
I'm Jerry Kassar. I'm the chairman of the New York State Conservative Party, a resident of Brooklyn. I was in there today. I heard Michael Cohen admit to lie after lie after lie. And he's making a lot of money. A lot of money after this. He's a crook. He is a faulty witness. Hey, everyone should be allowed to speak, right? He's a faulty witness. Michael Cohen is the one in that room who is guilty. Guilty of crime after crime. He should not be on that stand. This is the fifth week of New York State wasting money on a sham trial. There's a lot of crime in this city, and the Manhattan DA should be focused on real crime, not on a president of the United States who is enormously popular, has done nothing wrong, and nothing has been said in that courtroom that indicates he has done anything wrong. There are haters, and there are people who love him. And you know what? We're all going to find out what that really is like come November.
I'm Andrew Clyde, congressman from Georgia's 9th District. Now I'll tell you, after being all morning in this courtroom, it's pretty evident to me that the judge is very one-sided. He's conflicted. This particular judge also has a daughter that is making money off of fundraising for Democrats, off of this particular proceeding. You know, what needs to happen is this particular judicial type system needs to be defunded. And I think one of the best ways to do it is to prevent the funding, the federal funding, any federal funding, all federal funding from going to this New York system that is prosecuting a federal candidate for president. And I have an amendment. There was an amendment that was made in order by the Rules Committee under Speaker Johnson when Chairman Cole was the chairman of the Rules Committee. And it says, none of the funds made available by this act may be used prior to November 5th, 2024 to prosecute a person that is a declared candidate for president of the United States at the date of enactment of this act. This was made in order by the United States Congress, by our Rules Committee. Is all that needs to happen is this needs to be in the base bill of the Commerce, Justice, Science appropriations. So therefore, we can maybe have some justice. Because I'll tell you what, there's only one crime that I saw in the courtroom today, and that was when Michael Cohen admitted to stealing from the Trump administration. He is a serial liar. He is a convicted perjurer. That's the crime in the courtroom. And I yield.
Mary Miller from Illinois 15. I came out today to support President Trump. Americans are with President Trump. This partisan witch hunt has one purpose, and it's to keep President Trump off the campaign trail because Joe Biden is too feeble and inept to campaign. The witness is a joke, and no crime has even been presented yet. Any sane judge, any normal judge would have dismissed this case by now. But this judge is corrupt and partisan. Alvin Bragg is focusing on a political witch hunt while women are being attacked in the streets by violent criminals who have been released by New York Democrats as part of the social justice campaign. The city is overrun with illegal immigrants. These cameras, this media, you should be down at the border covering the illegal immigrant invasion. I can tell you this, President Trump is going to defeat Joe Biden, the worst president in American history. And with God's grace, we're going to make America great again.
You are shilling for a rapist.
I'm Eric Burleson from Southwest Missouri, and I'm here to send a message from the people that I represent. The people who are distraught with what they see this country doing to one of their favorite presidents. A man who was an entrepreneur and successful in every way prior to running for office, but have seen the institutions of this country devolve into something that's trying to be corrupted just to be able to remove him from office or to stop him from coming back to office. You know, they wanted me to send a message that they're praying for President Trump, that they support him. At the end of the day, he is their favorite president. What's disturbing to me is I see that we are at a critical inflection point, and that is that if we have Lady Justice who's being threatened today, this judge has taken the blindfold off of Lady Justice and instead is using a sword of punishment against his political adversaries. This is a judge who has made contributions to President Trump's opponent, Joe Biden. This is a judge whose daughter is working for and profiting on efforts raising money for the Democratic Party, including my colleagues Dan Goldman and others. It's clearly a partisan effort and an attack against President Trump. But what is really at stake here is our justice system. Folks, whether you like President Trump or don't like him, we all should agree that what's more sacred is that we do not destroy America in the process.
From Georgia and a former state legislator. I want to make it clear. This is a sham trial. Nobody cares what you want. The judge has donated to Joe Biden's campaign. His daughter is receiving millions of dollars from the Democrat Party. What I witnessed today, I'm here to let America know that Michael Cohen, the chief witness for the prosecution, is inconsistent. He is controversial, and he is unbelievable. Not only has he been a liar, but Michael Cohen is a cheat. So what we have today, again, is a sham prosecution against President Trump. I stand for First Amendment. I stand the right to protest in a peaceful and orderly manner. But I also stand for our court system. And what we have across the street is not justice. And I wish each and every one of you could be in that courtroom to see the sham that's taking place and using taxpayers' dollars to do it. So again, justice will prevail. I believe that those jurors will look at Michael Cohen's testimony and see that he's a crook, he's unreliable, he's inconsistent, and he's certainly unbelievable.
One last word. We're here because we support President Trump. President Trump is going to help us rescue this country. And I'll tell you what, President Trump is going to help us make America great once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Just to begin, so the news on inflation, it really is rampant. It's moving at a level like people have not seen. They don't seem to be able to cut it down. Biden has no control over what's happening. He started it with energy, and now it's taken on a life of its own. It's very sad. We'll get it fixed. I'd like to be out campaigning right now, but again, I'm going to be in here almost 5 weeks in court. They have no case. There's no crime. Every single legal expert, and I can say this again and again, and every time they come out, maybe at some point they'll come out and say, oh, we found something. But every single legal expert, Andy McCarthy, Jonathan Turley, Mark Levin, every one of them, Greg Jarrett, these are great talents. These are actually very brilliant guys, and they're not necessarily on my side historically over the years. But they're very talented people. They're legal scholars, highly respected. Every single person is saying there's no crime. There's no crime. It's a kangaroo court. There's never been anything like this that I've ever seen. Now, I had 2 other trials that were kangaroo courts also. It's stacked up. And hopefully appellate division will take care of those things because they're, egregious. And the problem is that New York is really on trial itself. The whole world is watching. They're seeing what's happening. And you can't use conflicted judges. This is a conflicted judge, highly conflicted judge. And you just can't do that. You just cannot allow that to happen because you ruin the whole system. The whole system comes tumbling down. And New York, look, I love New York. This is where I grew up. I was born here. I grew up here. And I see what's happening with this judicial system. And it's just, they call it all kangaroos. And we just can't have it. And I think the appellate courts can take care of a lot of things, but this one shouldn't even get to an appellate court. This should be an easy ruling, and it should really be, and I think it would be great for Judge Marchand to rule from the bench and to terminate this witch hunt. And it needs it. It really needs it. It needs decisiveness. Every single scholar says there's been no crime, he's done nothing wrong. And I'm fighting for 300 million people. I mean, I have no choice. It's not that I like doing this, sitting in an icebox all day for 7, 8, 9 hours. And it's a very cold room, I will tell you that. But I'm doing this because our country needs it. Our Constitution's under threat. Our country needs it. So here I am. I will be doing something in the morning and then probably coming back in the afternoon. And we'll be resting pretty quickly. Resting meaning resting the case. I won't be resting. I don't rest. I'd like to rest sometimes, but I don't get to rest. But we have a phenomenal case. We've won the case by any standard. Any other judge would have thrown this case out. Any other judge would have thrown this case out. And I think that Juan Merchan would do himself and do the state and the city a great service by doing what everybody knows should be done. And so we're going to go in. We'll have another little scrum in a little while, perhaps. It should end a little bit early today. We appreciate you suffering with us. Look, you've been with us for 5 weeks, and you see it. The crowds outside, we can't get, it's not a very big thing for us. We don't really care that much. But people want to get out there, and you have all police. The only people that are let out there is the radical left lunatics. And they put our people 4 or 5 blocks away. There are a lot of them, too. But I say that doesn't matter. What matters is what's going on in this courthouse. So thank you very much. We'll be back a little bit later. Thank you.
Sir, why did you post that video about the unified right? How did that get on your website?
Why won't you testify, Mr. Trump?
Thank you, everybody. Jason Miller with the Trump campaign, here with Caroline Leavitt and Stephen Chung. So the Biden folks have finally done it. After months of saying that politics had nothing to do with this trial, they showed up and made a campaign event out of a Lower Manhattan trial day for President Trump. In fact, Biden's cronies had a printed out campaign sign saying Biden-Harris. So why the change? Why is Joe Biden now making this a campaign event after months of weaponizing the legal system against President Trump? Because Joe Biden's numbers are in the tank. The headline for today in Politico very simply said, Dems in freakout over Joe Biden. Joe Biden is losing nationally, is losing in every single battleground state, and President Trump's numbers continue to rise. And the best that Biden can do is roll out a washed-up actor. And don't worry, my remarks will be shorter than the Irishman. I won't make you suffer for 3 hours. But the best they can do is roll out a washed-up actor. Last week, President Trump spoke in the Bronx, where he had over 25,000 people show up to rally around him. And the best the Biden campaign could do was put out a web video with Robert De Niro. There is nothing behind the Biden campaign. Their numbers are in the toilet. Kamala Harris is a terrible alternative, and it's all an attempt to try to turn around the Biden campaign. Now, what's happening here in Manhattan? We're in closing arguments for the Biden trial. We've been here for 6 weeks. Nobody has said that President Trump did anything wrong. We have a highly conflicted judge with an unconstitutional gag order, and everybody sees this case for what it is. In fact, the New York Post this morning, with the headline from Jonathan Turley, as Trump trial comes to close, DA's flimsy case is nothing to brag about. Everybody knows this case is complete garbage. President Trump did nothing wrong. This is all politics. If you don't think this is politics, then why did the Democrats wheel out a retread like Robert De Niro to try to change the subject? You could see the look on the Biden campaign staffers' faces. They knew this was a bad idea. They didn't want to be here. But somebody at Central Command told them that everything is going down the tubes for Joe Biden. And I hand it over now to Caroline Leavitt.
Well, guys, this is amazing. I think Todd Blanche summed it up best. If there was an MVP, if there was a GOAT of liars, it is Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen is the embodiment of reasonable doubt. And this entire case hinges on someone who has quite literally lied to every single person and body he's ever been in front of. He's lied before, I believe it's every branch of Congress. He's lied before his wife. He's lied to bankers. He's lied to all of you in the press. And he's actually lied to that very jury. And yet, he's the only person of relevance that this entire case hinges on. We understand that this is a political persecution. That was evidenced today by the Biden campaign themselves holding a rally here. They bring in Robert De Niro, who was shot down, but apparently he needs attention because it's been a while since he's cranked out a good movie. But think about it. They bring out one actor. Remember in 2020 when every A-list actor in the world showed up for Joe Biden and they lined up one by one? Now they get one person. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson disavowed, said, hey, listen, I regret voting for him. Cardi B, all the people that lined up behind Joe Biden understand that he has failed our country, he has failed the citizens of this nation, frankly, he has failed the world. But the fact that they are holding a rally across the seat from this very witch hunt, right across the street, tells us exactly what we all knew all along, that it is a political persecution. It is a witch hunt. There is a reason one of the people sitting at that desk was the number 3 person in Joe Biden's DOJ. I know my father is not allowed to say Matthew Colangelo in his name, right? Because he's been gagged. The President of the United States is not allowed to exercise his First Amendment rights in New York City in this day and age. Does that not tell us all everything we need to know about what we're witnessing? It's a witch hunt. They're using it as a political fundraiser, just like this very judge's daughter has profited from this very case. It is an insanity. It is an embarrassment. It's an abomination to democracy and to our republic. And yet it continues. Everyone in this case is conflicted, and it hinges on one man who's not just a liar, convicted, someone who's lost his law license, has been disbarred, someone who's served jail time for lying before congressional bodies, and that's it. That's where we are today in America. This is a sham, it's insane, and it needs to stop, because if you think for 1 second that this ends with Donald Trump, you have not been watching what's going on in the Democrat Party in the last few years. They want power at any and all costs. Your rights be damned. That can't stand, that can't happen. This sham prosecution, this insanity, this abomination has to stop now.
After watching this trial.
Well, guys, I had to come down and witness the Bolshevik show trials for myself. What's going on here is an absolute farce, and anyone in America should be embarrassed at the absolute miscarriage of justice that we're seeing here. There's no crime. The only problem is the witnesses who are experts in these things aren't allowed to actually testify to that because you have a rigged system. You have a judge whose daughter is making millions off of this very case. But you know what? That's not a problem in New York City. We're just going to allow it. When our defense goes after arguably the least credible witnesses in the history of, witnesses, you're not allowed to ask the damning questions of them. The star witness in this case is a 9 times convicted liar, and now an admitted thief. That is who they're hanging the entire case on. The other one happens to be a porn star. Not exactly the ultimate form of jurisprudence here, but that's what you have. And what it's doing is setting a disastrous precedent for our legal system for justice in America. If it can happen to Donald Trump, and if they will try to do this to someone like Donald Trump, with a platform, hundreds of millions of followers, the ability to fight, they will do it to anyone. They have weaponized this system against their political enemies, and they've started to go down a very dangerous and a very slippery slope. This insanity cannot stand. This kind of bias cannot be allowed to happen in the United States of America or anywhere else. If this was going on right now in a third world banana republic, there would be people screaming about it. You people, the media, would be outraged. Instead, because I presume you're fine with whatever the results are as long as it's against Donald Trump, your silence is deafening and it's disgusting. This cannot stand and it cannot allow to continue.
Don, why'd you feel the need to come down here and negotiate?
Because you have no choice. And again, I wasn't a political guy my whole life. I may have been a conservative. We used to change the skyline of this city. We built buildings. But once you get involved and you see the disasters created, especially by this current administration, you understand that you have to fight. You have to leave our country to our children in a way that they can recognize it. You have to fight for the freedoms that we have enjoyed our entire lives. They are all at risk right now. They are all on the table, and that's unacceptable.
John, do you agree with that?
I just want to say, Matt Whitaker, former acting attorney general, equal protection under the law is a most fundamental bedrock constitutional principle of American jurisprudence. What I just saw in this courtroom is a complete miscarriage of justice. We cannot have judges who are wearing the same jersey as the prosecution and are not calling balls and strikes, but are intentionally preventing the defense from defending themselves. You know, we have witnesses that are liars and stealers. We cannot have this in America. And the fact that this is going to most likely go to a jury trial on no crimes, that this is essentially a referendum on whether or not the jurors like Donald Trump or not, is not the American system of justice. We demand better. New York City demands better. We have the most serious crisis on our border that's causing the most insecure terrorism situation since 9/11. We need to wake up to what's important in America, start paying attention to that. Pam?
Thank you. Pam Bondi. Prior to being Attorney General of Florida, I was a career prosecutor for 18 years. I've prosecuted hundreds of jury trials in a courtroom very similar to the one today, yet I've never seen anything like this. A judge is supposed to be a neutral arbiter of facts. First of all, this case was declined by many years from the Southern District of New York, by the Department of Justice, by multiple jurisdictions, yet they bring it on the heels of a presidential election with a convicted felon, a convicted liar, Michael Cohen, who admitted in court yesterday to being a thief. They need to prosecute Michael Cohen now for stealing from the Trump organization. I've truly never seen anything like this. That judge was sustaining the prosecution's objections, meaning agreeing with them before they could barely get the objection out of their mouth. Listen, all the rights here, I'm a prosecutor, former prosecutor. Yeah, all the rights here go to the defendant because it's his liberty at stake, and that has not been happening in this courtroom. So let's just pray that we have jurors that see through this. When Bob Costello was trying to answer questions on cross-examination today, the prosecutors were cutting him off. They didn't want him to tell the full truth. They only wanted to cherry-pick portions of his statements. They weren't letting him answer the question. Prosecutors want the truth out there. You want everything to be heard so the jurors can make a fair and reasonable decision. This case should have never, ever been brought.
If I may, just the point that Don Jr. made, Sebastian Walker, former deputy to the president. What is Judge Merchan hiding? Here is a 28-page document from the Southern District of New York about what? Michael Cohen and why he is a criminal. This document was meant to be brought up in court. Judge Merchan suppressed it. This is from the Southern District. 28 pages on Michael Cohen being a perjurer and a criminal. What are you hiding, Judge Merchan? Is it perhaps the fact that your daughter has just made $93 million for the Democrat Party? President Trump has been gagged. He's the leader of the opposition. He is the only person who can replace the incumbent senile old man. And we know that this judge is working on behalf of the Democrats. Why are you hiding this document, Judge Merchan? I'm going to put it on the internet today. What are you hiding, Judge Merchan? Sorry.
No. Dan Patrick, Lieutenant Governor of Texas. So why aren't you asking the question, when is Michael Cohen going to be indicted? He stole $60,000. Do your job. That should be the headline. Number two, Alvin Bragg should be indicted. He brought someone as a witness in a case with someone he knew had committed a crime. He should be indicted. So, headline, please. Where are you, Alvin Bragg? Who's going to indict him? Who's going to indict Michael Cohen? Look, we are here to defend our Constitution, our freedoms, and we're here because we are friends of Donald Trump, the President of the United States. And when a friend is trouble, friends have his back. The way he has been treated, you would see in Russia, you would see in China, you would see in North Korea, you would see in every little tin pot dictatorship across the world. And that's what we have here in New York, in America. If they can go after the former president of the United States of America, who has the ability and the financial resources to fight back, what happens to the average American? What happens to any of you? If the courts in New York come after any of you because of something you said, because you said something the ruling class didn't like. And that's what all these other countries are about. They shut down the ruling class. They want to be sure that anyone that speaks up against the ruling class disappears. They want Donald Trump to disappear. They want to send him to jail. They want to take him off the main stage because they know here's their biggest danger to taking the ruling class down. No, you know why? Donald Trump is not the ruling class. Donald Trump is for every New Yorker. He's for every Texan, every state. Donald Trump has put his whole life on the line. His whole life on the line for the American people. When he came down that escalator, he probably had no idea that he was going to be called to be the man in the gap to stand up for Americans. And he's standing up for you, even if you don't know it. I don't know who's next.
Would a member of the ruling class be facing 730 years in prison? What a pathetic question. 730 years in prison, and he's a member of the elite? That's pathetic. You're not a journalist.
So I want to say, as a former attorney general, as my previous job, and now as U.S. Senator Eric Schmidt from Missouri, I can tell you these charges should have never been brought. There's no crime. The only crime that's been unveiled through this, Soviet-style show trial is Michael Cohen, who stole money, admitted it on the stand. This is the star witness. This is the witness upon which this entire case stands. And as a legal matter, this case is a total joke. In a broader sense, you want to talk about threats to democracy? That's what this is across the street. The idea that the Democrats not only try to keep him off the ballot, Donald Trump, but now throw him in jail for the rest of his life because they know he's going to win in November. And the only way they think they can get after it is this unprecedented lawfare. We have never, ladies and gentlemen, we've never seen anything like this in this country. So I know this can kind of be normalized as you've been covering it. This is outrageous. If this were happening in any country, any other country, our State Department will be warning people not to go to that country because it's a banana republic. And more broadly speaking, let me just say this. From a political perspective, the American people see what's happening. This has added jet fuel to his campaign. You want to know why he's rising in the polls? Because the American people understand the injustice that's happening, and they don't want to see their country turn into a banana republic.
I'm Ronnie Jackson from Texas, and I just want to say real quick, make no mistake about this, we all know this. These corrupt prosecutors and this corrupt judge are nothing more than puppets of the Biden administration and the Biden DOJ right now. You know what? It's a shame. They will do anything. They will lie. They will cheat. They will steal. They will do anything to keep him from becoming president again. They fear Donald Trump. They fear Donald Trump. And they fear what's going to happen if he becomes president again. And I tell you, they should fear, because he started draining the swamp. He's going to keep draining it again. And all of these people are representative of the swamp. The sad thing is today, Lady Justice in the city of New York no longer wears a blindfold. She's wearing the Michael Cohen T-shirt with President Trump. That's how disgusting this has got to be right now. And it was mentioned before, this is not the kind of stuff that happens in the United States of America. This is Soviet-era stuff right here. Everybody out here, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, if you're Republican or you're Democrat, I don't care what your political leanings are, you better look at what's happening right here in New York, and it better scare the hell out of you, because they'll come for you next. Next up.
I'm Representative Salazar. Probably am the only member of this group that can speak in both languages, so I'm going to do that in Spanish when we finish. And I have a few remarks that I think are going to be very interesting to all of you. I represent District Number 27 in Florida, a bastion of the ultimate melting pot in the United States. And I just want to make very clear that I am here of my own volition. I am not on the list of the favorites. I am not looking for a job, and I paid for my own way. To make sure. And the only reason why I'm here is because thousands of my constituents back in Miami are terrified when the courts in this country are used as weapons to crush our political enemies. Regardless of what you think of Donald Trump, regardless of what you think of him, regardless of what you feel about him, regardless whether you're going to vote for him or not in November, Donald Trump is not the only one going through trial. We all are. And I'm not sure if you know that, but that's the truth. Trump may be the one on the stand today, but the same forces that are manipulating the court system against him today will be after you tomorrow if we do not stop this political cycle circus that we are facing right now. The empirical evidence is overwhelming. And why do I say that? How come a person is being charged and we do not know the charges that are against him are clearly defined? That is all political. That happens in Cuba and Venezuela, not in the United States. How come the federal prosecutors 6 years ago decided not to touch this case, but somehow the state prosecutors in New York decided that it was the right timing? Because it's all political. Why there are no audio recordings? Don't you guys want to hear what's happening? How come there are no cameras in the courtroom? Why is that? Because it's all political. You know what? My parents are Cuban Americans. They are political refugees. They came from Cuba 60 years ago. And political trials happen in banana republics. In banana republics, not in the United States of America. Thousands and thousands of my constituents, and that is why I am here, not because I'm one of the favorites, but thousands of my constituents come from those countries, the Cuba, the Venezuela, the Nicaragua, very close to us. And they recognize and see very well when there is a political inquisition going on. They have lived it, they have suffered it, and they escaped it, including my parents. And yet now, we're watching this again. Where? In the United States of America. There is something very wrong with this picture. And we have lived it, and that's why I'm here talking to you. The United States, the courts, the laws, the judges, cannot be used as political weapons just to silence the other guy because you do not like him. The ballot box is where you fight those political battles, not in a court of law. And in the meantime, I belong to you for 35 years. You should be ashamed of how passively you're sitting passively by while the credibility of one of the most revered American institutions, the judicial system, is crumbling in front of your eyes. Where is your profession? Where is your impartiality? Your biased coverage will cost us for many generations. Unfortunately, my constituents know this movie does not end well. But the problem is that millions and millions of my fellow Americans have never watched it, so they do not know the dangers we're facing. America and its political genius of the American exceptionality, if we lose faith in it, we are marching towards a very dark place. America is the only hope, ask my parents and my constituents, for humanity, and if we want to continue pursuing the happiness of all of us. May the Lord Almighty, the Lord of Abraham, the Lord of Jesus, protect us, because we are in a very dark place. Thank you.
En español va a decirle algo, señora. En español, por favor.
Thank you. En español, dime. En español, yes. Lo que acabo de decir es que esto es un circo político. Nosotros we are the largest minority in the country, the Hispanics. Los hispanos somos la minoría más importante en los Estados Unidos. Esto es un circo político que solamente se ve en Cuba, en Venezuela y en Nicaragua. Es una vergüenza que nosotros, independientemente de lo que usted piensa de Trump, si le gusta Trump, si no le gusta Trump, lo que piense de él, en realidad es que en este país no se logra una lucha política en las cortes, se logra en el ballot box, en las urnas. Y por eso le estoy diciendo a los hispanos, wake up, despiértense, que lo que está pasando es marxismo, y nosotros vinimos a este país para no tener esto, sino para que el futuro de nuestros hijos sea un futuro glorioso en un país que es el American Exceptionality.
Fantastic job. Fantastic job. Troy Nails from the great state of Texas. I tell you what I saw today, this is nothing more, and the American people see it. This is election interference. First time to the courtroom, I sat in there for an hour and I said, we've got a compromise judge, no question about it. We've already highlighted to you all about the daughter, big mega donor for all the Democrats. They don't want Donald Trump off the ballot. They don't want him on the ballot. They don't want Donald Trump holding rallies, because what happens at his rallies? This is 5 weeks sitting in a courtroom when he should be out reaching the American people and telling the American people what he would like to do for this country. And who shows up? Tens of thousands of people show up at Donald Trump's rallies. The Democrats hate it. There's not another person on the planet that can do that other than the Pope. the Pope. And when do people go? They visit the Pope. What do they say? Pope, what can you do? Would you bless me and my family? That's what they want. They want blessings for their family when they go see the Pope. When people come to Donald Trump's rallies, they're saying, Donald Trump, we need you more than ever before. Our country is burning. The world's on fire. We need leadership. The American people are begging for leadership, and they're asking Donald J. Trump, stay strong, continue to fight for the American people and the Make America Great movement. That's what this is all about. And all the dishonest media, all of you out there, you don't want to talk about it. You don't want to talk about it. But I guarantee damn well to you this. Donald Trump's going to be the 47th president. Donald Trump's going to be the 47th president, and he's going to make America great again. Again.
Can you explain your tie?
Don Jr., have you spoken to your father about how he would feel if he is?
So, I don't think any of us have seen a more glaring example of undermining American democracy than I just witnessed in this courtroom and we're seeing throughout this court case. What is the offense? What is truly the charge? I guarantee you, the jurors don't know the minutia on whether if there were records kept right, or if a payment was made properly. It is senseless. Then let's just look at and frivolous. Let's look at the players involved here. Can you just at least do that? Brag. Go back and look at when he ran for DA. He ran on getting Donald Trump. He was paid for. His campaign was paid for. He's owned by the Soros family. That's who this guy is. Look at the timing of when he brought this case to the court. Just so happens we got a presidential election in 5 months. And by the way, when you're going to accuse the former president of the United States and the leading opponent of Joe Biden's in a presidential election for the United States of America, you better have a case, okay? I'm not hearing anything up there. Take it a little further. This judge, he donates to Joe Biden. His daughter is one of the most prolific fundraisers for the Democrats, for the DNC, and for Kamala Harris. I mean, where does it end with the mockery that has been created here? This case never should have come to court. This case is totally frivolous. This case has no merit. Donald Trump is incredibly innocent, and it's only about defeating him in November. Everybody's got to understand that. This is a weaponization of our judicial system. So it's that serious, it's that scary, it's that bad for the great constitutional republic known as the United States of America. Thank you.
I'm Congressman Dale Strong from the great state of Alabama. I wanted to come here and see it myself so the common people of this country can understand what's going on. It's election interference at a level never seen before. We're keeping a candidate that is leading the Republican Party from campaigning throughout this country. What he wants to talk about is inflation. He wants to talk about fuel prices throughout this country. He wants to talk about why interest rates for those that are wanting to build homes is at 6 to 7%, and people can't reach their dreams. Let's just put it what it is. This is election interference at the highest level so that this candidate cannot tell his story throughout this country. But I'm going to tell you right now, the American people see right through it. I'm proud to be here with Don Jr., Pam Bondi, members of Congress, Senate, my man right here. And I'm telling you right now, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. I saw it in person today. It shouldn't be happening. And America's going to see right through it. No, let's answer that real quick. No, he didn't ask me to come here. I came here on my own because I was seeing what's going on. I said, rather than someone else try to tell me what's going on and someone else trying to tell the people of Alabama what's going on, I came here and I damn sure saw it myself. It is a circus in that courtroom, and I'll promise you, the people are seeing right through it, and Donald Trump is fixed to be the next president of America, and this is going to be part of it.
The former president got the chance to share his story in front of the jury. Why did he choose?
I'm Daniel Webster from Central Florida, and I came here today for one reason. I want to support my friend, President Donald Trump. He's a great man. He deserves an opportunity to campaign. It's not happening. All I saw here is what everybody has said. This is a farce. It's an unjust thing to bring someone to trial when they've done nothing. So I haven't seen a person that's committed a crime. Haven't seen any evidence that proves a commission of a crime. All I've seen is there's a liar, a convicted liar. That's the star witness. And secondly, a thief who stole money. Where's the prosecution there? $60,000 is a lot of money. So I know my people, and they believe this to be a farce. And I think that we're going to prove that. I think we're going to win that. But the key is get him out of the way. Let him go campaign. Let him become our president again.
John, why are you investing? I think everyone understands that it's a farce. You have the guy that the star witness literally on the stand yesterday admitted to a crime that's far worse than anything else.